me about these sources and these gun ranges. You're saying you're seeing that there's reports of different gun ranges, and what are they seeing?
Oh, for instance, people that don't speak any English whatsoever, all tatted up, total gangster-looking guys that are clearly fresh off the boat. And also, for instance, yesterday at a range in Florida, a bunch of this is an incredibly good source, mainland Chinese people speaking Mandarin. He actually spoke with them. They didn't speak much English, but one of them already had a concealed carry permit in Florida. I mean, this was this is interesting. You remember China Ninja that we talked about last time, who he tried to get to Florida on the boat, got intercepted by the U.S. Coast Guard on March 8th. I intercepted him in the Darien Gap about a month ago, and he was trying to get this guy's clearly like straight up. I mean, if he's not a spy, I'll be just amazingly surprised, right? And it doesn't mean he's a great spy. Remember, a lot of these low-level people, these low-level paramilitaries are mass-produced. You can't mass-produce the 007 types, right? But you can mass-produce a lot of the paramilitaries. And clearly we have a lot of those coming in. It's really obvious. You see the Chinese coming through the Darien Gap, for instance. They're usually coming in 5 to 10 man groups. By the way, most of the people that are coming across the border are military-age males from all countries, right? This is a clear weaponized migration. They clearly will be armed later. This is how this goes. Now, people can say this is conspiracy theory, but I feel like an oncologist who's been treating cancer all my life, and I've been going to wars and conflicts around the world. I've seen this over and over and over. I know what's happening. This is an invasion. They're going to be armed. You're going to have to fight them.
Yeah, I mean,
all praises and glory to Yahweh Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham Ha, Rakah Kudash. Double honors to our apostle elders, which rule Great Millstone well. And shalom to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel. May you endure into the end. Shalom. All right, as you heard, it's an invasion, and this Edomite is telling all the Edomites are the wicked, the so-called white man, the red devil the Bible speaks of, and they're being told by their leadership, which they watch this show, believing them. You can see the comments. That's why I left the comments up, because everybody's really listening to these people for guidance. The Redacted show, and then they got this guy up here saying that you got to fight him. So guess what you're going to have in the street? You're going to have a race war, a civil war, all right? And it tells you that these women's husbands are going to die in war, all right? It says in 2 Esdras 16, and it's verse 33. It says, the virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. There's going to be a shame on virgins, all right, for not ever getting married, never having children. The woman shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. Why? Because you're going to have these men going in houses, destroying the house, taking the goods, and raping the women. It says, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed. And see, it says wars, because you're going to have a world war on top of this. So a lot of the American men are going to be drafted and taken to the Middle East to be destroyed in the Valley of Jehoshaphat. It says, in the wars shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. All right? And a lot of men are going to starve. All right? Looking for food, they're going to be destroyed. Being drafted to the army, the military of America, sent over to the Middle East, and they just abandon you like they've done to other men. All right? We're in a time of trouble like no other. All right? It's called Jacob's trouble, and it's going to climax when they make the MOTB, implantable microchip, mandatory for buying and selling. And who who am I speaking of? It's the Edomite, the so-called white man, the red devil. Alright? It says in Zechariah 14, verse 1, it says, Behold, the day of Yahweh cometh, and thy spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. And that's what's happening. The so-called white man, the red devil, he's doing this. He's bringing in all these foreigners. All right, they're trying to say it's not but Mexicans or South Americans. But as you watch that video, they said there's Chinese, there's Hamites. All right, there's of all nations. All right, yes, there's even of the South Americans, Mexicans, all of them. It says, For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle. Jerusalem is the Israelite, the so-called Negro, Latino, and Native American Indian, which has been scattered throughout the world in slavery. All right? And there's actually three forms of Jerusalem. You got Jerusalem, the city, all right, in the land of Israel. You got Jerusalem, the citizens, the actual biblical Hebrew Israelites. And then you got New Jerusalem, which is the chariot, which is a city, all right, which we're going to be gathered into and changed before before our enemies at their destruction. It says, For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half of the city shall go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. All right. So let me get this in the translation comparison. This is the first verse in the NLT. Watch, for the day of Yahweh is coming, when your possessions will be plundered right in front of you. All right. So that's the first verse. It says in verse 2. For I will gather all nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city shall be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished. Ravished means raped. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the NLT. Let me get the NLT. There it is. It says, I will gather all the nations to fight against Jerusalem. The city will be taken, the houses looted, and the women raped. Half the population will be taken into captivity, and the rest will be left among the ruins of the city. See? And what is that? That's war. You're about to have war in the streets of America, where it says the blood is going to be so great, it's going to be up to the horse's bridle. All right? So this is that time of Jacob's trouble that the Lord has spoke of, because now Jacob is in trouble. The so-called white man is looking at every fucking Mexican as one of the ones that came across the border with the intent to do harm. All right? And it's only going to get worse. When that MOTB comes out, the implantable micro CHIP, and they make it mandatory, which is going to be the climax of Jacob's trouble, all right? It says they're going to invade each other for the lack of bread and for great tribulation. Neighbors are going to invade neighbor for great tribulation and the lack of bread. So that's the time we're in, all right? Because America is about to end, and it's going to end in a nuclear destruction, all right? Zechariah 14, verse 12, and this shall be the plague wherewith Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth, because the Lord is going to have America destroyed by nuclear missiles. All right, its allies are going to shoot missiles with its enemies, dealing with America, with America's allies and enemies teaming up to shoot nuclear missiles on America. The whore that rides the beast, Babylon the Great, who are to be destroyed. Shalom to the elect.